Man,
That is a good song,
and we
man.
are live. Hello and welcome to the Benefit of a Doud podcast, the Beyond a Doud edition. This week we have, or this month, I should say, this is not a weekly show, this is a monthly show. We have Mr. TK Bay. TK, how are you doing today, sir?
I'll say this, I'm doing better than the last week or so of going through recovery and jet lag, but I'm doing much better also for being with
Yeah.
you here on the show. Thank you for having me.
It is awesome to have you here. I'm very excited, and it's weird because like we've had this kind of like we've run in the same circles for a long time,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
at the beginning of this year, we podcasted together for the first time on Juan's show, and
yeah.
then we met for the first time in OnePlus, and now we're podcasting together again. I'm just wondering when you're going to move in.
I've been meaning to talk to you about that. I think it's one of those conversations that I think it's time for us to have. You need to
Okay,
set
all
some
right, yeah.
time and real expectations, and I think boundaries also maybe a little bit.
Some boundaries, yeah, very,
A little
very,
bit,
very
yeah.
important boundaries. So, okay, anyway, no, so thanks for coming on. It is very cool to have you here. I always like to bring in, fellow creators, fellow podcasters, fellow tech
All right.
reviewers for this Beyond the Doud show, and Beyond the Doud is exactly that. It's this is all about you. This is the TK show. So,
Oh man.
we're gonna,
Okay.
yeah, we're just
Okay.
gonna
Hold on
talk
a
all
second.
about
Oh,
TK.
phew, let me fix that. Okay,
And
good.
yeah, and we've already had a lengthy conversation off air, so we're gonna have to try to. I'm gonna have to try to remember some of the things I asked you while we were off air, so I can ask you now on air
All
because
the
it
juicy
was.
questions. Okay, okay. God help
Yeah,
us.
we had some fascinating conversations there, but usually what I like to start with, my usual icebreaker, is I like to go into kind of like the origin story of like how you got into, um, you know, tech reviews, how you got
Mhm.
into tech in general, like
Oh, okay.
what was your origin story there, and then like how did you get into being a creator and yada yada. So take it from the top there, buddy.
Oh my God. Okay, so a long time ago, a man met the woman, and basically there was a love story going on. But skip forward a few like maybe 10, 20 years there.
Sure, sure, sure.
In tech in general, for me, has always been a fascinating subject, and I've always been intrigued by it ever since, like at a very young age. And I'll say this, and I'm not trying to date myself, but like one of my first passions was the Amiga 64.
Okay.
From a computer style, approach to computers, magnetic tapes, and just being able to play video games, or even the Atari 64, the classic Atari 64 when it was actually released, not the recreated new versions of those. So from those early days, I was very intrigued in technology and how to use technology and work with it. And I've always liked. I was always more of a mechanical person. I like to
Yeah.
figure out how to fix things. So I disassembled a lot of things and I've reassembled a lot of things. So that was kind of like
Okay.
the early young stages of like this kid likes to mess with things and he likes to know how things work. Then fast forward till I was like maybe 17, 18, and I immigrated to the US. I wasn't born here. I was born in Lebanon. And
Okay.
when I first moved into the US, I got my first computer. It's a 486 DLC, I think at the time, like maybe even 40, no, yeah, 40 megahertz with the turbo button too, if you remember back in the old
Oh,
days. Because you needed that
fancy.
turbo. Yeah, I know. I know. Not everybody had the turbo, but you got to do that boost. And it was a
Of course.
physical button, which I really liked. Because can you imagine right now if somebody's playing a game, like, hold on a second, let me hit the NOS button on the computer.
Yeah,
Uh,
there you go.
like what's it called? Vin Diesel edition computer PC.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so that was like literally the first computer I got that was pre-assembled for me, and then I started from then assembling computers, building them. So it was really more of a passion of that just kept evolving with time, and as consumer tech became more accessible to the general public, you're able to buy your own pieces and put them together and upgrade, and then from there on, mobile tech, smartphones started becoming mini computers. That got me interested. Um, what got me into creator content info, all of that was more so me being a fan of a website. Obviously, you probably know xdadevelopers.com. And
Familiar with it.
yeah, it's people may know. You may have heard of it. If you haven't, they're kind of big in India. No, I'm just kidding. I mean,
Wow.
they're
Then there's
probably
fighting words.
no. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, like 90% of modders now are primarily in India, or at least in the Asian continent. The They took a chance on me. They put out a calling asking for creators or people that like to create content. I joined. I applied. That was like 13 years or so ago. And kind of almost like the rest is history. They helped me develop and learn and do better. And I've had I would say I was lucky enough to have a lot of good people on my way, or in my way at least, to help me go through step by step, learning how to make things, how to do things, learning from mistakes. And we're here, like almost 13 years later or so.
Yeah, like so when did you I want to say I was around when you left XDA, and I don't remember exactly when that was. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. Was it that recently, or was it a little bit longer than that? I'm trying to I it all
Um,
kind of blends together after a
so,
while.
officially off the XDA channel, I think, or the general group was right before they got bought by Valnet, and it
Okay,
was
yeah, so
about,
fairly recently.
yeah, like about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. It was in
Okay.
October. We had done I think the last thing officially that I done with XDA was, we did a podcast with the Honor, and it was around the Honor. I want to say the Honor 30 Pro or 30, the around the Honor Magic 30. It was supposed
Okay.
to launch internationally. It didn't make it, but there was a launch that they wanted us to cover. So we did a live podcast from that, or
Neat.
live stream, and that was it. Yeah, after that I kind of
Very cool.
shifted over.
Yeah, and so now you're doing your own thing, and
Well,
that's pretty.
so that's the thing. I've been doing my own thing kind of in tandem for quite
Well,
some
yeah,
time.
because you were kind of doing them both at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't start at the same time. I started with XDA fresh. And
Hmm.
then somewhere around 5 years or so after being with XDA, I started up my channel. So, yeah.
You're like, this YouTube stuff's easy. I'm just going to do it myself now. Let's go.
It was a little bit, it was during about a 6 months or so hiatus. There was some creative differences that we couldn't work out at the time. And I had
Mm,
about a 6 months break. And at that point, I'm like, why don't I just focus on myself? And I did. And then we worked things out, and I was able to come back, but I wasn't going to just drop everything that I've been working on for 6 months. So
right.
that was kind of the jettison of the dual path. But yeah.
Interesting. Well, and it's cool that you were able to make that work, having basically two different YouTube channels, two different entities, and whatnot. But okay, so anyway, after you left XDA, now you're kind of like, I don't want to say full time because you're not full time, but like this is your primary creator gig.
Primary
So
English one. Yeah. And so there's an English, and then there's the Arabic one.
oh, okay, yeah, I keep forgetting about that because I honestly I only watch the English,
Oh,
obviously.
no. I
Uh,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's targeted to a totally different market. But for the most part, it's really, I would probably say it's a copy of the English side, but it's like it created on its own. It's not a dubbed channel. It's like I create the content for English, and then what I'll also do is some content that I feel like works for both markets. I'll create one for the Middle East area as well. So, but yeah,
why build one when you can have two for twice the price?
exactly. Use that
Name that
second
movie.
language that I learned.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, you got it. You may as well use it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so out of curiosity, like, which of those two channels, like, I know you're not supposed to have favorites, but which of those two channels is your favorite? Let's just lay it out there. Do
I
you
mean,
do
I'll
you
be
prefer
honest.
doing English content or do you prefer the Arabic content?
Um, Preference. I still prefer doing the English content, mostly because all my relationships are in English. And when I mean relationship, I'm talking
That
about
makes
brand
sense.
relationships. The
Sure.
Arabic channel is it came out of a friend of mine coming up to me and it's like, dude, you speak Arabic, you speak it fluently. You're not, you're not trying to mumble through it. He's like, why don't you have an Arabic channel? And I'm like, because
Yeah.
everybody I work with is here, all my viewers. And then he's like, no. You have a unique situation where you have access to hardware that typically comes months ahead of when it comes to the Middle East. You can create content in Arabic ahead of other people without
Yeah.
having to do much. And I'm like, that makes perfect sense. So the English one, although will always be the favorite, because again, it's the breadwinner. It's the one that brings in, for the lack of a better word, it brings in the cheddar. That's where the
Of
money comes
course.
from. The
Of
contacts are.
course.
Because I live in the U.S., almost none of the Middle East companies will work with me because I don't live in their territory. And
Mm.
I'm sure you know this as some of the other of all of our friends. PR companies typically categorize creators by section by geographic location,
Yeah,
and if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
outside of their geographic location, they can't work with you.
Right,
So yeah.
right. So it can make things challenging, but it's a good in for you to take advantage of. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, and and it's worth mentioning. This is not your, being a creator is not your full time job. You actually do have kind of a 9 to 5,
I actually
which
do.
I honestly didn't even know, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then I found out what you do, and it's amazing. And we're not going to talk about it except to say that. But it's really cool that you're able to. I wanted to talk a little bit about how you balance that 9 to 5 versus being a creator, especially when you have two channels to create for,
Mhm.
because that's a bit of a chore. I've kind of got a similar thing going on my end because I work 9 to 5 for Slash Gear, and then I come on and do this podcast in the evening. So how do you manage that balance?
I'm gonna say, uh, wake up early and stay late.
Gotcha.
I'm an
Just
early riser.
don't
I'm an
sleep.
early
I
riser.
gotcha.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I wake up about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning every day.
Whew.
My
Woof.
early career, where before COVID and being able to wear maybe flex work, a little bit of work from home, that was my prime recording time. I would wake up early,
Mm.
early in the morning. I'd have my scripts and I set up everything and then shoot the content and shoot it basically. And it was much rougher. It was much more direct. It was a difference. It was, I also feel like the style was much more easily manageable as far as the content. It was more of a, you fit into whatever. Okay, so this is a video review for what, an app, a phone, or whatever. You kind of fit the
Yeah.
category, shoot all of that, have all the B-roll, and then during my lunchtime at work, I would basically edit on my laptop and then
Okay.
have it ready
All
for the
right.
next morning, post it, upload it to YouTube and do all the coding later in the afternoon, once I have time. And typically what I'll end up doing is while I'm waiting for my son to finish his, after school, extracurricular activities, karate, swimming, or whatever. Yeah, I'm, coding and getting everything set up correctly for it to go live the next day.
Yeah, because if there's anything that we can count on when you have kids, it's you're gonna have downtime while
A
you
lot of
wait for the kids to
downtime
do their
waiting
stuff.
for exactly. That's just
Yeah.
how life is. So yeah,
And
that's typical.
do you just have the one son?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Omar is like about almost 13. Well, no, he's not almost. He is 13. And he's been in a few of my videos, but yeah, he's the only one. And I don't know. We'll see. He wants to be a gamer, so we'll have to figure that part out.
There you go. I see. I sense a Twitch stream in your future
I,
there.
I think he would have had one already if it was up to him. But yeah, we're trying to we're trying to figure out a balance between school and making sure
Yeah.
he's productive and it doesn't just consume, as you can imagine.
So, I mean, one thing that I have learned about having kids, especially in this day and age, is that I'm terrible at it.
Mhm.
Especially when it comes to like managing, online time and streaming time, game
Yeah.
time, and like how's that working for you? Because I know I'm like I said, I'm terrible at it. I cave.
Uh,
I'm a caver.
Uh, I'll say that at least so what seems to be working for us, and I'll say the good part of that is because of my wife. I think she was able to put that line in the sand much stronger.
Okay.
Weekdays, we don't have any video games. It's basically just homework, and just work, schoolwork and homework and after school
Mm,
activities. Friday afternoon through Sunday is open time, so he can play video games. He has access to his computer. He can play, Minecraft and what's it called? I was going to say Call of Duty. No, that's my stuff. But like Fortnite and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
haven't gotten him on Call of Duty yet. And then
Fortnite's for kids. Call of Duty's for olds. Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. So typically, basically, Friday afternoon through Sunday is it's open time for him, and he gets access to
Oh.
play. But we also don't have. We have his gaming experience on mobile is on a separate device. So
Mm,
his personal phone is his school phone. So that's where he does his homework and connects with the teachers and the whole parents
yeah.
app and all of that. And on the weekends, he gets his gaming phone back, and then his computer. So
Okay.
that
So
seems
does he have
that's
his
all.
own personal phone?
Yes,
'Cause
yeah.
that was something that my wife and I really struggled with, like, when do we get them a
He just
phone?
got it. So in his last year of not junior high, elementary school, I gave him an Alcatel Go Flip 4. So it was a flip phone. He hated me for that,
Okay.
and he'll still hate me today because I made him take it. But once he graduated elementary, because I know there was some kids that already had it. There was no reason for him to have it. I needed to connect with him, but I
Yeah.
didn't want him on his phone on TikTok or whatever. So we gave him that. That worked. And then during that summer before he went to seventh grade, because we needed access to an app that you could only install on a smartphone,
Mm,
that kind of forced our hand a little bit. And then he was
interesting.
able to get his own. We got him a Pixel 5a 5G. I think so. That's his personal phone. It's not a
Okay.
bad
I mean,
phone. It's a good one.
from what you just said, what I took away from that was TK hates TikTok. So good to know.
No. So that's the thing about TikTok for me is it's a time machine. It's a wormhole.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you
It's
open
so
the app.
terrible.
The moment you open the app, you might as well just have just shifted 30 minutes into the future, because before you know it, that's just how it goes. And imagine if that affects us like this as an adult. For a child, he can be there for hours. He could
Oh yeah.
just swah. So we also limit TikTok where it's not on any of his devices. It's on our device. So if he wants to access it, he has to use my wife's phone. So that's how we're limiting it
Interesting.
now. At some point, I'm sure it's not going to be working that way. But as he's here, he is still 13. We have some authority I'll say that we still have some
Yeah.
some authority.
May as well use it while you can, because trust me, that's
Yeah.
going to go away very soon. My daughter is actually a little bit younger than your son, and she is okay. But I
No,
mean,
no, no.
the thing is like, it's not the fact that my daughter has an iPhone,
Mhm.
so it's like even a little bit kind of more annoying, because I switch devices all the time, but
Yep.
none of the parental controls on Google actually work on iPhones. So it's like, if I want to if I want to be able to like approve apps for her, and if
Mhm.
I want to be able to locate her phone if she
Device.
loses it or something, I need to have an active iPhone. And so that's been a bit of a headache. But
Yeah,
um
that was one of the reasons why we kind of limited. I mean, in general, we don't really. I mean, we have iPhones. My wife and I both have iPhone as our work phones, but we're not iPhone users. So they're typically 90% of 95% of the time we're always on an Android version of a device. So for me, yeah, it was easier for us to stick with Google and Microsoft. So we use
okay,
Microsoft
yeah.
for the PC side, and I love how Microsoft does it, because it carries over from the PC to Xbox, because we can also manage that. So that doesn't get activated or magically during the middle of the night where we're all asleep.
Right.
And
Right.
then for Google, it seems to be actually working pretty well for us. From between
Nice.
managing time, bonus time in case it does need more time, approving apps, making sure nothing accidentally gets installed. And if he does like say he logs into a site with his credentials, I also get a notification right away if his account now
Yeah.
is being accessed by a specific app, or something like that.
So you're using like a Family Link from
Yeah,
Google, is that? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And it had a nice little, at least the app for the phone got a massive update. I want to say maybe about 4 or 5 months
Yeah.
ago. The UI element
Yeah,
is
it did.
much cleaner now. Yeah,
Kind of switch things
finally.
into tabs and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's actually very cool. All right, so sorry, we
yeah.
kind of got on a kid's tangent there. Let's
That's
bring it back to TK. So
sure, sure.
um we talked a little bit about how you manage a day job and creator and whatnot, and we basically came up with you never sleep.
Yeah,
What about like when it comes to like travel? Because I know that you went to I think you went to I'm pretty sure you went to CES. Yeah,
of
you
course.
did, because we
Yeah, yeah,
podcasted about it. Duh. Anyway,
absolutely.
uh you went to One Plus in New York. You went
Yeah.
to MWC, which is that's a
Oh,
trip.
that was a long
And
time. That was
then
like a week. Yeah.
yeah, and then I think you probably also went to, like, Samsung, if I'm guessing, right? Yeah, so I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
you've been globetrotting, I'm just kinda wondering, like, how your day job is handling that.
So, the easiest way to probably explain it is we've had, 2.5 years of a pandemic where we went nowhere.
Mm,
And lucky enough, I would say this, lucky enough, that means we have a lot of vacation time that's just sitting there. So for me,
there you go.
most of what I try to do is, very frankly, if it's something that's local, I consider San Francisco local to me, because it's
Okay.
easy to hop over to San Francisco in the morning. I can be back in the afternoon. I
Mm,
can leave really late in the one day and be back early in the morning. So it's never really too long of a trip. And those typically are like a 1 day type of a thing. So unpacked for me, even
Sure.
because it was in the middle of the day, it was literally at 1 day. I just got in, done it, and got back in.
Mm,
And because we were able to work from home and so on, in some areas, I'm able to basically, as long as I'm able to do my work. It didn't really
yeah.
impact me. So sometimes when we travel, like an example would be for when we went OnePlus and so on. A day like that, it wasn't for at OnePlus, but like a day like that would be where we have our stuff early in the morning. The rest of the day, I would just sit in my hotel room and work.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I
I
was gonna
I
say
would
I
treat it, yeah.
for as much as you were in New York, I actually only saw you at the OnePlus event. I didn't really see you like outside, except for like, yeah, I think you came out and, and hung out in the lobby with us like for
Very, yeah,
like
yeah. We
15 minutes or
we
something like that.
and I went back up and I had to take care of some stuff. Like it was literally, yeah. Travel for me, I feel like when I travel is a lot more work than I am when I'm normally in my normal environment, because you take being home, so you take the family part of the conversation out, and that releases a lot of time. So, but
Hmm.
then you have to fill that in with all the other things you have to do. So typically what I
Right.
do is I'll try to do all my trips in like a 1 day event. And I'll take like a vacation day. I think last year, or not even last year, a few weeks ago, right before MWC, I took a 1 day vacation, and I did a 24-hour trip to New York and back. And I left, came back in 1 day.
Wow.
It's
What was that?
exhausting.
What was that for? I'm just curious.
But yeah, no, it was for Realme had I guess a media lunch or dinner,
Oh,
and they got us, or they
okay.
introduced us to the new Realme GT3, which is that new 240-watt charging that they just announced at MWC. Yeah, at MWC. So we had an
Oh, very
opportunity to
cool.
go check that out, and they had a few of our friends there. So I know a lot of other people typically, if they're doing this as they can spend a couple of days or so. For me, it's literally I can only disappear for this long, and if I can do
Yeah,
it in
you're
this long, I
you're
can do it.
you're in and you're out, and your family is okay with that. All
My
the various day trips.
I'm still married. I'll say that.
Fair enough.
Uh, I think it's literally, typically my months are not like that. I'll say this: February has been by far the busiest of my entire YouTube career. I
Okay.
typically will have maybe 1 or 2 a month, and that's generally the busiest. This month was just crazy, where all the companies decided to wake up and like, hey, let's just try to do things right before MWC, or trying to lead up. And then MWC for me was a week long experience. We had there was the MWC, the show itself, and then Oppo had a media thing that they wanted me to kind of also join, which was a few days after MWC, and that was
Okay.
also something that that took on. That's why the MWC for me was such a long time. It took over like the whole week for me, so I had to take a
Wow.
whole week vacation off, a vacation
So
where I was working.
so what goes into your decision process as to whether or not you're going to attend an event? Because I mean, like on the one side, you want to maintain these relationships. Like you
Of
don't want to
course.
say, no, real me, I don't want to fly to New York. But on the other hand, you're like, I've got a day job, I've got a family. Like how I'm just kind of curious, like what goes into your decision process when it comes to whether or not you will attend an event like that, which is a question that's probably going to become a lot more relevant to you now that we're I'm going to put it in air quotes, but post pandemic, because now we're actually
Yeah.
traveling again. So I'm just kind of curious, like what goes into that thought process at this point.
For me at the time, I was thinking, like you said, basically some of it is FaceTime. I mean, to be honest, the other part of it was access to hardware. I knew that
Okay.
if I didn't go, that yes, typically I would have received the device, but I would have received it on the day of launch at MWC, which was not enough time for me to do anything with it. I would have to
Yeah.
basically, you know what I mean? Like, so for me, MWC is such a busy time. If I don't have something ahead of time to prepare for the show, whatever I get at the show is bumped right after everything. So because it's just the
Yeah.
way work kind of goes on. And then I also kind of wanted this. I looked at it. I said, "Can I actually do a 24-hour trip? Can I actually go and come back?" Because New York is not an easy flight. It's not like a 30-minute flight. It's
Yeah.
a like 5 hours going, 6 hours coming back, depending on the route that you take.
Yeah.
So I looked up flights and I looked at, but it's like, okay. So I saw like, okay, it's doable from a mechanical standpoint. Then I also had to kind of brief the brand and let them know that I couldn't stay the whole afternoon. During the dinner, I actually kind of left a little bit earlier. So we get
Mm.
part of what they wanted. I want to make sure they were comfortable. So it was a lot of thinking, a lot of basically balancing. And like I said, it's access to hardware. Had it been just a meetup, I probably would have just said, we'll see you at MWC, and we would have been fine if it was just a social meetup kind of a thing.
Right.
But I didn't, so it was more that was the rationale behind it. Plus, haven't had really good conversations in FaceTime with Realme for some time, so I felt like it was a good time to kind of meet up the team, and it was nice. And I got a chance to see a whole bunch of people I saw literally like 5 days later at MWC.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. I mean, really, what kind of sticks out in my mind is like specifically the OnePlus trip.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
because when we kind of went into that, we were thinking, okay, well, maybe they'll have the OnePlus Pad on hand that we can play with, or maybe
that
they'll have
that
this
was my
keyboard
impression.
that we can.
Yeah, that was my impression. That's how, at least that's how I understood it to be. Obviously, it
Yeah,
wasn't, but that's how I understood it. MWC was the place was where those things were going to be. Yeah.
right. So it was, it was fine.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
no,
fine.
I
Um,
absolutely, and the pad and then the keyboard. The keyboard looks nice. I didn't get a chance to play with it, but the pad actually looks really solid. Like build quality, the pen, everything. The software needs a little bit more work, and I think that's what they were talking about. So hopefully, by the time it becomes available, we'll see improvements there. But overall, the design is solid. It looks really good. The color is actually
so
much better than the pictures make it look like. But yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Hmm.
So what's your favorite kind of content that you create? Like, I know you do a lot of reviews, and
Hmm.
I know you do a lot of kind of versus content, stuff like that. So, like, where do you when you get a new device in hand, like, what are you looking forward to?
So it depends on the product, but I'll say like the last few things. There's a couple of different styles of things that I've been working on. So the last video I pushed out was on the Xiaomi Scooter 4 Ultra. They just announced that at MWC.
Oh yeah, I
Did I?
saw that.
Yeah. So it was a total surprise because I was like at MWC, I'm checking it out, I'm looking at it on the show floor, and I get a notification on my Nest telling me that there's something being delivered at my door, and I'm looking at it, and it's a long box. I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, so I know what's in my house now. Uh, so, um, so a product like that to me is obviously more about being able to use it, go out with it, enjoy it, set it up, and compare it to obviously how does it compare to the last generation? Are there enough improvements? Smartphones for me become more about how does this piece of tech make my life better? What
Okay.
makes this this foldable make it? Why is this foldable better than this other foldable? So that I
Hmm.
would choose this over that because at that it's a decision making that I feel like as a consumer, when I buy things for myself, like if I'm going out to buy something, I want to weigh the pros and cons. So that's typically what I try to go into it. So I try to find those unique little things that make it more exciting for me to enjoy something like when you get a flip phone from Oppo where there's a bigger display on the front, does that make it more exciting? Does it make it better of a phone, or is it just a gimmick? And that's how I try to figure the approach, because there's I call them the standards of smartphones. Like, it's a glowing rectangle. A shout out to Juan on that one.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's just basically a display. More than likely, the processor and the hardware is more powerful than what we need, and the device itself will look great. It's going to come down to software, unique features, and what makes it unique in the realm of the competition that's already out there. So that's what I try to focus on first. How do I make it
Very cool.
shine?
There you go. That's perfect. So what? So I know you have your channel. You have your both of your channels. What? And I
Mhm.
know you do a thing with one. Like what? How does somebody get the whole TK experience? Like what are your shows that
Oh,
you're working on there? Yeah,
so
pimp your
the
stuff here.
so the best way to get in touch, or at least to get to understand or appreciate what things that I try to put out is, so there's the weekly show that Juan and I do, which is the best of our week, and it kind of emerged to be a combination of what I used to have on my own show. I used to have the Android Bay as a weekly podcast on Saturday mornings, and I used to do Thursday night shows separately on Amazon. But things have
Okay,
evolved and changed over time. Time
sure.
and so the Android Bay kind of evolved itself into the best of our week. So now I figured out, why not just do that one show that we both do and we both get to enjoy, because I get to repeat myself if I do my show by myself. So the best of our week from a podcasting standpoint with Juan, and that's a weekly show on Thursday nights or Friday morning, depending on the events. And
Okay,
then from YouTube content, obviously it'd be TK Bay or Tarek Bay, depending on the language.
right.
Um, But on the socials, it's usually basically Instagram and basically Twitter primarily. I mean, even though Twitter is kind of fluxing now, but those are primarily where you'd find me. Basically, if you want to get in touch with me right away, Twitter is the place to talk to me. You want to see some of the creative side, behind the scenes stuff, Instagram and Reels, and I think that's generally the best way to kind of get the full TK experience.
Nice, nice, very cool.
Yeah.
So I noticed that you just did an Honor Magic VS review,
Yeah.
and I just published my own Honor VS review. So I'm wondering if maybe we could compare notes a little bit. Do you have the phone with you, like anywhere nearby?
No,
Of
I
course,
don't.
there you
Of
go.
course not. No, I don't have it at
I
all.
know it's there. Are you using the case that they sent along?
So I am using the case, but I'm also I wanted to show this to you because that was one of the things I really liked about MWC is they did this. Come on, they let me customize
Oh
mine.
wow, that's fancy.
Yeah, it's a skin.
So,
Obviously, it's not nothing like super fancy, but essentially it's the same thing. Just he said they were doing custom skins for, and obviously it says Honor Talents. These are Honor designs.
yeah.
But they were doing it for every phone. Like it wasn't necessarily just Honor, like iPhones and Xiaomi and Realme's and all of
Oh,
that.
cool. Okay.
So I walked up to the guy and I was like, "Hey, you know that phone that you guys just have right there on the table, like literally right behind where he was standing?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, do you have the design for this? Can you make me a skin?" And yeah, so lo and behold, he did. So I customized mine. So yeah, I use the case, but when I'm home, I take it out and I use it without it. So definitely nice.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So, what were your I mean, I know you've got like a full 17-minute video where you break down the phone. Let's
Yeah,
do
yeah.
the Reader's Digest version. What did you think about that?
So Cliff Notes version of that, I would say it's a solid smartphone. It builds on Honor's Magic UI or Magic OS, basically 7.1. It has desktop modes that a lot of people don't know about that it actually does feature something competitive to Dex, wireless
Hmm,
and wired. And I love showcasing the fact that you have capabilities like that on a smartphone, using it
sure.
more. Um, I like the display on the outside. The form factor for me felt more natural to a smartphone than at least the Fold 4 that we have, which we still have more of a narrower bezel.
Okay.
The inside display was pretty decent overall. I think that I love the continuity between the outside and the inside display. It was smoother for me than it was on the Z Fold, where in the
Really?
Z Fold
Okay.
there's a little bit of a stutter when you're trying to, like, if you're watching a movie and you're going 16:9 on the top and then you open it and it goes up. That transition for me was cleaner.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
and then because the other thing I'm not sure if you and I both have the same software version, because there was a software update that they pushed out. They fixed a lot of things for me.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Initially, when I
I
first got
I
it, the
haven't done an
phone.
update. I did an update like I double checked for an update the night before I published the review, so that would
Okay.
have been like Sunday. Has something come out since then? No, I'm
No,
curious.
no, no, no.
I'm checking
And
for
then
updates as we speak.
most of my experiences on this have been ahead of that. So my update came up on, I want to say, the 15th of March.
Okay.
So that was the biggest update they pushed. Right after that, I
Wait,
think everything was
today's the
solid.
15th of March.
Sorry, 15th of February.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Okay.
Welcome back to the
Welcome
show.
back. How you doing?
Hey TK, so you've been talking about what? No, yeah, 15th of February. God, my
I
God, it
just
is 15th
checked.
of
No
March.
new update.
Yeah, yeah.
But
But
okay.
so in general, in that aspect, I think for me that's where it was kind of shining. Large internal display, obviously large front facing display. The one thing I did notice though overall is the multitasking functionality is a little bit different. It does not support as many open windows or split screen functionalities as what we see on the Z Fold. That was something that
Okay.
probably they could fix in the future. You could still do multi-screen, like in a split screen and a floating window, but you couldn't do split three and then add a floating, which nobody ever does because you can't really multitask like that. But you know what I mean.
Right. Right.
And split screen, for some reason, at least for me at the time, didn't work on the front facing panel unless you started it. Like there was a few hiccups in the software, but I feel like they need to work on. And I mentioned
Okay.
that in the video, and I also talked to them as well when I was at MWC.
Yeah, and like the one thing that probably bugged me the most, and actually continues to bug me, is like when you make the transition from the smaller screen to the larger screen. It
Mhm.
seems like at random they just like pop up this window that says this might not work, but it might also be okay. And then you like have to dismiss it. And it seemed like even though I would dismiss it for a given app, it would still keep asking about it. That was like
Yeah.
the kind of like the one like kind of brain buster for me. But and it's cool that you have the Galaxy Fold 4, because the
Yeah.
last fold that I used was the Galaxy Fold 2
Oh wow.
when
Okay.
when Samsung had that 100-day return window, and I
Hmm.
returned mine in 90 days because I had to lend Samsung $2,000 for 90 days is what it
I
boiled
know,
down.
and it's a it's a messed up process. You're right. You are in a way locking up a lot of money, and depending if you're, I'll say that I did that actually with the first fold. The first fold, I felt like it was a lot of problems for us here. At least at the time, I couldn't find one that was unlocked. It was such a scarce product, and I got it, and I
Oh
got
wow.
the AT&T
Okay.
version of it. But I don't use AT&T as my main carrier most of the time. So I wanted to test it out and see if it was worth to get, and maybe even try to get it unlocked and so on. So I ended up returning the first one, but then from the second fold on, I basically just kept going. I roll one into the next one. So I invested money on the first one, and now I just basically I trade it in every time I get the new one. Although I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. We'll have to see how the trade-in's going with the fold this year. I'm really scared.
Well, and Will, you should be, because that's exactly what I was doing. I was doing that for the iPhone, and I
Hmm.
was doing that for the Galaxy,
Yes,
S22,
right. Yeah, yeah.
S Ultra,
Hmm.
basically,
Yeah, yeah.
and like that was going great for a couple of years there. But this year, the trade-in deals on the Ultra were terrible. I mean,
Horrible. Oh my God.
if you
Yeah.
stayed away from a carrier,
Yeah, yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
so like I went with T-Mobile because I think they were only offering like $500 off the Ultra, so that would have been like $700 out of pocket, and I wasn't gonna do that. So what and ultimately ended up doing was I got the Ultra,
Hmm.
with the trade in, but now I'm stuck with T-Mobile for another 2 years, which is fine. I wasn't planning on going anywhere anyway.
Hmm.
But this time next year, I have no idea what I'm going to do because,
It's a
yeah,
it's a very and then the weird thing about it is that, I mean, we kind of we knew that this was kind of going to happen. We just didn't know when, because there was just no way that year over year the
it
Samsung
wasn't
devices are.
sustainable.
Yeah, it was just not sustainable. Samsung was definitely being very generous to make people get into that habit of, well, yeah, I'll just trade in my phone next year. I'm not going to sell it to the bottom. I'm just going to trade it in, trade it in, trade it in, and then you realize that the money you paid on the S22 Ultra is 90% of that is gone.
Right.
$500 was the most you can get, and I was trading in a 512 gig S22 Ultra. Like,
Oh my
at the
God.
time, like, that was an expensive phone. I'm like, okay, but the problem about it is they've adjusted to the market side so much that it was reality. It was really what it
Oh
is.
yeah.
It's Samsung discounts their devices right off the bat. And by the time you come around about a year later, yeah, I mean, even the Z Fold 4 now, you could probably find it for like $900. A phone that sells for like $1,500, $1,600, it's even less. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little bit concerned on how it's going to be if the Z Fold conversation stays the way it is, and we don't get as much on that. I may not end up jumping into the Z Fold 4 or 5. I may just basically stay with what I have and figure out a way to either rent it or somehow, like, T-Mobile has another thing, which since you mentioned them, they
Yeah.
have something called a jump on demand program, which is a leasing program that they have.
Do they still have that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
a member member since they came out.
Oh, cool. Okay.
The benefit of of that plan is essentially, for anybody that doesn't have T-Mobile, is that you end up basically leasing a phone or a device for an extended amount of time, but they allow you to jump from one device to another up to 4 times a year. But then you can't do it like every month. You have to wait a couple of months or so, make a couple payments into it before you kind of jump off. So I've been
Yeah.
using that a little bit with some of the devices on T-Mobile. Like, typically the inexpensive ones, it'll be like zero down or whatever, and that's how I'll get the A series, or like, I think that's how I got the A53 last year. Hopefully, maybe the A54. I think that's coming very soon.
Hmm.
And then you can also do that on higher end devices. You lose a little bit of money, but then you don't end up paying as much in the total. And then you can jump off
Yeah.
of it if you don't need it. So, since you have T-Mobile.
Yeah, yeah, oh, no, absolutely. And what's funny is, we talked about the iPhone
Yeah.
earlier. So I don't know where you are on this issue,
Okay.
but I tried so hard and I couldn't make eSIMs work. Like, just
Yeah.
trading between eSIMs on phones was such a freaking nightmare. I
Hmm.
finally just gave up. I threw my hands up in the air. I went to my T-Mobile store and I said, I need two SIMs because this is just not working.
Yeah.
And oh god, it was such a nightmare. But then I ran into the same problem that I have with my daughter is I need to have the active iPhone, and like my daughter and I go to amusement parks together and we go out a lot together. So if I want to be able to, track her, to be perfectly honest, when I mean, there are times like we go to the amusement park, she's out of the car, like, and into the park before I've even gotten out of the car. Like, so I really need to, try
Priorities,
to keep
priorities,
track of
my
her.
friend. Her priorities are much different than yours when you're at an
Oh,
amusement park.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So like I went to I got the physical Sims
Hmm.
for the Android phones that I'm going to be swapping for, but I still need an eSIM for the iPhone. So
Hmm.
I just went ahead and got a Mint SIM, like a Mint Mobile SIM.
Oh, T-Mobile SIM. Yes. Sorry.
Right? Which is
Congratulations. Welcome to
hilarious
T-Mobile.
because I didn't, I because Mint it's $15 a month, and
Mhm.
for as much as I'm going to use the phone, I don't need any more than like 4 gigs of data and whatnot. So I just got that eSIM, and at the time, Cliff was just like, "Well, why didn't you just get another line with T-Mobile?" Because I could have done that. It would have been like $20 as opposed to 15.
Mhm.
So like not a major thing, but I'm just like, I wanted to try out Mint and see how it worked. And then like literally a week later, T-Mobile, we hear this morning, T-Mobile bought Mint, and I'm just like, well, what the hell?
That's also an interesting story because Mint uses T-Mobile service. So what
Yeah,
did T-Mobile buy? That's what I want to know. They did just buy the name and
I think they
the
bought
customer,
Ryan
the consumer.
Reynolds. Actually,
They
I think that's what they bought.
Deadpool brought
To
to
be
you by
perfectly
Magenta.
right. It's just so it was just like one of those like really funny
Yeah.
coincidences. So now I've got a new T-Mobile SIM, like you said, in
Well,
the
no.
iPhone.
So for me, eSIMs, I fail. Okay, so I have a different approach to eSIM primarily because domestically, and I say domestic because I that's typically what I do. I love,
Right.
and I don't think I can move away from having a physical card because that, as you said, the transfer of content from one phone to the other, the way our lifestyle is, which is no typical or no stereotypical
It
one
is
in any
not
way.
typical. We are
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much edge cases.
we are
Yes.
absolutely the exception, not the rule in any conversation. Um, but it is the fact that, yeah, I need to be able to switch my phone from one device to the other without having the need for the internet or without having the need to make sure that I'm connected and contacting my
Or
carrier. And
contact customer
yeah, and
service
make
and
sure that
yada
the new
yada.
phone I'm jumping on is whitelisted on this carrier, which is the other issue that I always have. Um,
Oh, I
you know,
didn't run into that one, but
yeah.
okay.
So, well, because, like, I mean, an example would be like some
The Honor
Xiaomi
phone.
devices don't, yeah, Honor phone or Xiaomi devices, they're not meant for the US. Carriers don't have them in there. They don't necessarily have to authorize them.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to somebody on Twitter that was they bought the Xiaomi 13 Pro,
Okay.
and they're on Mint. Talk about how story comes up. Okay, so they're on Mint, and Mint will not authenticate or will not allow them to add the phone to their service.
Oh, that's
They
messed
said
up.
that the phone is blocked or locked. I think that's the way the Mint technician said it. And of course, the guy was like, no, this is an unlocked phone, but if he puts an AT&T sim, it jumps on AT&T and it works right away. And if he had a T-Mobile sim, it will work right away. It was
Right.
something to do with the way Mint manages their account, and the same thing Metro does the same thing, by the way, because I had a problem with Metro a long time ago. They wouldn't let me add an unlocked device. It was an old Honor device that I gave to my sister-in-law, and
Mm,
she could not activate her account on it because they will not whitelist it. So long
that's
story, I don't want to have to deal with those type of more conversations on the phone. I like to be able to just take my SIM card out of the Honor phone, put it into
yeah.
a OnePlus, back into the Honor, whatever I want to do. And
Yeah.
that, I think, is going to be my driving force for why I don't like eSIMs in the US. And the
Oh
reason why I
yeah.
say this in the
100%.
US, because if I flip that story at traveling overseas, going internationally, like MWC and so on, and needing international access, T-Mobile is not necessarily the best. They don't offer the best packages. They do
Mm,
offer something now they didn't used to in the past, but it's like consistent, like $50, and then you're getting like, I think I forgot, was it like 200 megabytes or something like that. It's not a lot of data for the price that they
yeah.
charge. But what I like about eSIMs internationally, especially if your phone supports it, is you can use your own SIM card, your international content. Like, I can send or receive text messages from my personal SIM card. I can receive calls if I need it, but typically it's going to be just text messages. And then you can activate an eSIM for data when you're traveling. And then when you come
Yeah.
back home, dump the eSIM and keep your regular service running. So you run it as a dual SIM as opposed to a single SIM only eSIM. And
Yeah.
that for me was functional. Traveling an eSIM for me was very nice. I also learned that some devices like the Xiaomi 13 Pro unfortunately does not support eSIM, and I was a little bit bummed about that part.
It doesn't
Um,
support it at all?
no eSIMs at all. Like, it was
Really?
weird. Like, I think
Wow.
I was kind of surprised because I was like, okay, it's an international phone. Why no eSIM? Honor
Yeah.
does have it. I don't. Oppo devices have it. OnePlus devices have it. Samsung obviously will have it. It
Mhm.
was just surprising to me because when I was in MWC, I was trying to activate the Xiaomi one before I left. It wasn't working, so I made sure to put in
It's
my
crazy.
T-Mobile SIM card in that, and it was slow internet, but it was working. So for me, at least, I
Okay.
was still able to use it, and I really
And,
like the
like,
13 Pro. Yeah.
I like the idea of eSIMs. Like, I like
Mhm.
the idea of if you're traveling internationally, and granted, I'm not 100% positive how this works, but I know this is how it worked on the iPhone with Mint. Was I just downloaded the Mint app
Mhm.
and I said, I need a SIM card. They said, boop, here you go.
Yeah.
That's your eSIM. And it was just a matter of like downloading an app, getting it
Mhm.
installed, and just getting the eSIM installed. And it was a very painless process, which is
It is.
great.
Absolutely, and it's the same way internationally. I was using Airalo as the international eSIM one.
Okay.
And I did a sponsor video with them about a few months back, and I got introduced to their service. And since then, I've been using them so frequently. It's like it's such an easy thing.
Yeah.
You're landing in Germany, and you need 2 or 3 gigs for $15. You got 3 gigs of
Hmm.
data, high speed on the local carriers, and you get data only. It's not a local SIM card to make phone calls, so your own
Right.
contact stays the same, but your data is going to go flow through that. And our phones are very nice. Once you put in an eSIM, it says, do you want to activate this as data only and keep like SIM one as
Yeah.
still the
Yeah.
primary SIM, and you configure it correctly. I did it even and Pixel supports it. I did it on my Pixel 7 Pro. So
Nice.
I got high speed data when I was when I was traveling around, and then as soon as I got back home, uninstalled the eSIM, and my T-Mobile SIM card jumped back in.
And you're back in business. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I'll tell you what, TK. I mean, this has just flown by. I can't even believe that we're actually over 45 minutes into here. So,
Yeah.
we could talk about this forever.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
what I've been doing is I've been ending all of these Beyond the Dowd episodes with a series of lightning round questions. And I did
Okay.
offer you the option to see the questions ahead of time, which you opted to do because you are a
Yeah.
smart man. So
I'll see how
we can
well
go ahead.
I've prepared. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we can go ahead and dive into these, and we can wrap things up because I mean it's not so late for you, but it's almost 10 o'clock here, and I've still got laundry to do.
No.
So let's
I
go
understand.
ahead and dive right in. The first question is: are you a roamer, or do you have one set location for work?
One set location. Work from my office, studio, where I am.
And I'm looking behind you. You have a very impressive monitor set up there. I like that.
Yeah, G7 and a G9 Samsung. As soon as I can get my computer back up and running, they will be humming. I usually would have
Ruh-roh.
had them on. Yeah, yeah. My
Oh, so normally you have like an interface thing going on behind you with like different screens and like.
Dragon Ball all across on the bottom one, and then I have you remember Remix OS, the old Remix, the little Android.
Oh,
They were around for a while.
yeah.
They went up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They went down, unfortunately. So I used both of them. I set them up as a little background for most of my videos. But then
Neat.
typically, like whenever we're doing things like that, but this ends up becoming my editing rig. So my timeline and my timeline's at the bottom, my previews on top, or if I'm playing Call of Duty, it's Call of Duty on the bottom, and then my stream is running at the top if I'm watching content. So great for multitasking. It's just that my PC took a took a dive before all this
Oh,
travel in
no.
February. So I am in
That
the
is pretty
market of
badass.
getting a new one because it costs too much money to try to fix an old PC, and yeah, piecemealing it is not going to work. So I need to
Indeed.
get it replaced. But yeah.
Indeed. All right. What is the last song or artist that you listened to while you were working?
Oh,
Could be a
Oh.
podcast too if you go that route.
Okay. So honest, it's a weird song. Okay, so it's oh my god, hold on, come on, come on, come on. I had it in there, and I just downloaded it because of TikTok, because that's usually how it is.
Mm.
It's the "Tell Me Why" the remix by Supermode. So it's the 2023 remix of "Tell Me Why."
Okay, not familiar with that one. I'll have to look that up.
It's a classic. We know the song, but it's remixed. But yeah,
Yeah. So like that's the "Tain't Nothing But that one."
no, they tell me why. I got. If you want to, I don't know. Can we play music on your
Yeah,
show?
hit it. Well, actually, yeah, maybe not. But is it like In Sync or Backstreet Boys? Backstreet Boys is like a remix of that, or is it a different song called "Tell Me Why"?
Oh,
Huh. Okay. All right. Yeah. I
it's a
got you.
TikTok thing. Yeah, for me, I when I catch some of these cool songs, I like to listen to them, and this one
There
turned
you
out to
go.
be nice. Yeah.
All right. So, what's one word that a PR person can put into an email subject that gets an insta delete?
Sounds it's unfortunately it's not one word. It was well, I guess it's one word, long term.
Long term, really?
Long term, short for the long term relationship they want to have with me without knowing who I am.
Really? Okay.
I
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. Okay. All right.
Yeah, a lot of times because you get all those emails, right? I mean, they'll like send them like, "We watched your content, we're your fans, blah blah blah," all that good stuff, and
Oh
then
yeah,
you
yeah.
realize it's a template and they're just plugging in. And the word long term to me on something that you haven't even talked to me yet, how do you? Yeah, so
How do
to
you
me it
know
would
if you
be
want to be long term? Gotcha.
yeah,
How do you know if
or
we want to get married if we haven't even had dinner together? I gotcha. Okay.
it's like, "Hi, will you marry me?" Like, okay.
Right. Which that didn't work out for me last time. What's one thing that you wish all PR people knew about you or your content?
That I'm passionate about what I do. I don't. My work isn't a single push button kind of a thing. The content that you
Okay.
see, the tips that I put out, it's out of to using the actual product and living with it. And it's not, can I give you this and you give me a video in 5 days, and we want to edit everything. You need to let the flow work,
Hmm.
and that I need, my process needs time. So as long as you're comfortable with that, we're good.
Legit. All right. How long do you take to write a proper review? And I'm talking about from the time you open the box to the time you push publish.
For a full review, at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
Um, and I'll say that a lot of that also kind of starts even before the box. When I know something is coming, I start doing some research and finding out exactly what it is, what
Hmm.
the concept of what this device is going to be. But it takes usually about 2 weeks for me, sometimes longer on devices that are like an example would be the S23 Ultra. I'm going to be pushing that video hopefully in the next couple of days or so, and that
Okay.
took me about a month and a half. A device like an Ultra needs to be lived in a little bit more than that out of the box, first release, first drop kind of a thing. Because, that's all pre-release software. I need a little bit more. I need to learn all those kinks and the pains of learning how to use this device. So yeah,
Sure.
generally two
Sure.
weeks.
I we just did our S23 Ultra review on this channel, and I still like, even though I'd been using the phone for probably 3 weeks at the time, I still didn't really feel ready for it.
Yeah.
And I think like the biggest problem with me, tangent by the way, tangent
Mhm.
warning. I think the biggest problem for me was figuring out like what's the story to tell here that wasn't already told by the S22 Ultra and the S21 Ultra
Yep.
and the Note 20 to a certain extent. Like the Note 20 Ultra, it's like I had to try to figure out like what's the story here, and I think it came back to the 200 megapixel camera, which did some good stuff. It
Hmm.
it does some heavy lifting for that camera setup.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so
It's an interesting. Like I said, um, we'll see it in the video, but yeah, typically it's some devices need a little bit more time, and I've had mine about a week before launch. Sorry, before people start getting their devices on the 19th. I think that's how long I've had it. So it's turning
yeah,
into about a month for me. So I felt like this is about a good time. And I've traveled with it a couple of times. So I have the experience of using it internationally as well.
nice. I
Yeah.
put up a poll the other day saying, asking which phone I should switch to because I could move out of the Honor VS because I had filed my review,
Yeah.
and my the choices were Z4 Flip because I was kind of had the foldable bug,
Yeah.
And then the Pixel 7 Pro
Mhm.
and the S22 Ultra, and then finally the what was the last one? I don't remember. I think it was other or something like that. And yeah, as I was posting the poll, I'm like, of those four phones, the Ultra is the one that I actually bought.
Yeah.
So like maybe I should actually use that one, just so when it came up to a tie between the Ultra and the Pixel 7, I went with the Ultra because that's the one that I actually paid money for. So
Yeah, no, and
um
I think it depends on how you what you also need. Kind of, it depends on the product that you're looking for. I feel like both are solid devices. I think it's a
yeah,
neat and a personal choice. So yeah, either way, I think you had a good conversation going.
it was a good problem to have,
Yeah,
really. But
exactly.
okay, so has there ever been a product that you have received and tested that was ultimately so bad you decided not to review it? And without naming names, if possible, what was it?
Surprisingly, so there was one time. I've done a lot of content on Kickstarter, Indiegogo campaigns. So those typically
Mm.
are very luck of the draw. I'll
Mayday.
say, yeah. Like sometimes sometimes it's actually in a really good shape, and sometimes it's just really not working.
Uh,
And the company reached out to me, and they gave me actually enough time, which is why I kind of felt bad at the time. It was an entire system. It like a miniaturized version of an Oculus, kind of. They were trying to use it basically where
oh,
it was a
okay.
visor type of a glasses that you put on, and it was basically a 4K display. You're able to connect it to your PC, and they even locked had an interface to the HTC Vive controllers, and even the setup, all of that
Hmm.
good stuff.
Neat.
And for the life of me, it would just not work. The system just not. They worked at glasses that you can plug it into your computer. You could use them, um, but their approach to VR was just not working. The system wouldn't
Hmm.
recognize them. Steam wouldn't recognize them as a tool. And then to top it off, they were not syncing up with the HTC Vive. Their software team was very delayed, and it ended up basically being entirely scrapped. And I packed everything and sent it back. So
Hmm.
the company itself, I don't think ever the product never made it. Uh, but I think for me at the time, I felt bad, but I would not make a video on something even if it was, regardless of how much they valued it at. If it's not a right product, I'm not going to review it. So
Well,
I try to
sure.
make sure at least whatever I'm putting on camera is something I truly did experience, and that's what I'm trying to portray.
And I've done that too. And like at the time, I always almost kind of felt like I was doing them a favor. Like,
Yeah,
look, if you make me do a review on this, it is going to be 100% like a 2,000 words of me dunking on you. Okay, so I
yeah,
mean, like, if you really want me to put that out there, I will. But I had one product that like the company made some very poor choices. And
mhm,
when I pointed out these choices, they actually said, "Well, you know what? Let's get on the phone. Let's talk it over, and let's see if we can figure out a way to fix it." And so I did. I got on the phone with them, and they spent half an hour just justifying these terrible choices to me. And I'm just like, "Do you just want me to send this back to you? Because I'm not going to review." and,
yeah. And I think
and
that's
yeah,
how it ended for me as well. I told them, I said,
yeah,
look, I don't feel right. This is not going to work out, and I do apologize. I said thank you for trying to work with me on trying to make this work, but it's just
yeah,
not going to work. And if
yeah.
it's this complicated at this stage of the process, I told them, I said, this is not going to work. No consumer is going to want to go through that much headache. We're not in the
Mm-hmm.
days of, let me jerry rig my entire own, VR setup. We're in the days where people like to plug things in and it just works.
And it
That's
just
the
goes.
approach. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what you need. And your
Yep.
system is the opposite of that. So yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I've had good luck with other ones. So, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, it's all by all means. Let's go ahead and move on. Do you prefer producing written content, audio content, or video content, and why? I don't know if do you do a lot of written content? I know, like
X so during my XDA years, I've done a few
you
written
did,
contents
sure,
there. On my channel, or at least right now, I wouldn't call them editorials. It's more kind of like summarization of my video, and that's usually what goes on TK Tech Bay, the website.
okay,
So the website
okay,
is more like a landing page, or more, I would say, not
yeah,
necessarily a
yeah, mine
written
too.
version. And then
So
audio, basically the best of our week for me is the content that we do the best as far as audio long form. Uh, Preference between the three, I still prefer video. For me is like the medium. I kind of like I learned so much and I developed so much of it, and I
yeah,
put so much into it. So for me, Yeah, I think video would always be the best. Be it either long form or even just basically like short form like TikTok and Instagram reels and stuff like that.
Legit, legit. How do you deal with writer's block? And in by writer's block, I should say like that can be anything from I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write this script about, or even like I don't know what video to make this week. Like, how do you deal with that?
Oh my God, I just got through that entire phase.
Oh, okay, good.
Honestly,
Let's talk about it.
it was so honestly, it's kind of like one of those weird things where every once in a while you hit I like to call them burnouts, but essentially it's like a time where you've just done so much that your brain just kind of like, I'm not doing it today. Like you sit, you turn on the camera, and you're like, blah. And at that, when I see that, I try to take about a couple of days off where I just shut off everything. I don't do any videos. I don't try to I don't try to even think about the video. I try to disconnect and let the brain kind of reset. Take a little
So run
vacation.
screaming is what I'm hearing.
Typically, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's
Or
legit.
even just close the, because for me I have the ability of basically getting, when I get out of the studio, I don't have to actually necessarily work in here. I can work in the living room on my laptop and so on. So I
Yeah.
get out of the studio, this environment, just to kind of let things settle in. January was
Okay.
hard for me. CES was good. I had a lot of good stuff there. I came back. I did a couple podcasts, but I was having the hardest time sitting in front of the camera and doing a video. Like I would turn it on and I was like, yeah, this is not happening. I shut it off and I leave. And it took about a week or so, about a week, maybe almost 2 weeks of not creating any content, for me to kind of reset. So that it depends on how bad the situation is. But typically, a weekend of not doing anything tech related usually fixes it. But if it's pretty bad, it could take up a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But
And I mean, one of the benefits of having that day job is you don't necessarily need to rely on this for income. But and I
yeah,
know I was talking to I've gotten a little bit into the TikTok thing recently. Like I've been trying to produce. I mean,
I'm still trying. Yeah, I'm still trying. It doesn't work for me.
I'm not gonna pretend that I'm doing anything on a normal, regular basis, but I'm trying to uh, post things to
Yeah,
TikTok.
no, same. Yeah, absolutely.
And so, but I was talking to a guy at Slash Gear about it, and I'm just like, I'm really glad that this is not my job because, like, it's fun to make these videos, but
Mhm.
I don't want to have to make a video like every day. I think that would drive me insane.
It's a very, it's a very different medium, and it's hard for me
Yeah,
to explain. Like I have certain types of things that I will put into a TikTok or a reel. I don't try to do a review out of that, and I try to make it more well, like a little bit more BTS esque of work,
yeah,
as opposed to
yeah,
the actual. It's so like I'll do the unboxing on TikTok and I'll do it on Instagram. But example, when we were at MWC and covering all of the things, there's a lot of little hot takes that you get from different stands, but you're not reviewing anything. You're just
hmm
showcasing it. So for me, that felt that fits that medium quite well. And the fact that YouTube is starting to let us actually monetize, that was helpful as well, because
yeah.
typically I didn't used to post them to YouTube. I would just post them on my other socials. So for me,
Into the
that's
shorts,
kind of,
yeah,
yeah, the short function. So um it's a lot of work. The only saving grace about it is that I can do the entire thing on my phone. And if I could do it
yeah.
on my
That is
phone,
so
then
nice.
yeah, absolutely. So for me, like CES this year, MWC this year, last year CES and MWC, a lot of like 95% of my live on the show floor thing was all reels and TikToks. And then
That's
as well
cool.
as yeah, and then shorts. Because that's the easiest way. It's easy, it's digestible, and it's a format that people are comfortable with. So
Yep,
why not use
very
the
much.
simplest, easiest thing? There.
Yeah, in retrospect, I wish I had made more TikToks about the stuff that I saw at CES, but that's all right. I'll know it for next time.
Yeah.
Influencers here to stay or a bubble waiting to burst?
Um, a little bit of, not, wouldn't say necessarily a bubble waiting to burst. I think there's going to be an evolutionary morphing experience that's going to go through. I think we're going to evolve into something a little bit different.
Okay.
To a certain point, I like to refer to myself not necessarily as an influencer, but more so as a content creator. I'm putting content out. I'm creating a tech related content online.
Yeah.
And for me, it's the intention of it is to be a reference point for people or even a point of satisfaction because, some people like to watch videos about the things they just bought just to feel better about themselves. And some people that are actually researching about what they want to buy. And for
Right.
those two, I feel like that's what I try to put out. influencers to a certain point, I look at as that's going to be an evolving, I guess, medium. We can only accept so much of something to a certain point, and we're all going to change. I mean, Vine wasn't, it was the most amazing thing ever, and then it kind of crashed, and then something else came in instead of it. So
Yeah.
as we see that in the tech industry, I feel like even in the influencer medium, be it on social media, be it on on YouTube, or even being on in person, like actual creators, like on people, the people that are on Amazon. I think we're going to
Yeah.
evolve. The content maybe end up going shorter and more concise, and hopefully we'll have better medium, maybe more VR, AR type of content that we can also interact with people through, with like glasses and so on, and more VR type stuff. So I think we're going to
Nice.
evolve. I don't think we're going away. I think that
Okay.
part is not going anywhere.
All right. Who's the first reviewer that you read / listen / watch / go to when reviews drop? And you don't have to say me. It's okay.
Well, no, it's good. So typically, what'll happen, and I'll be very honest with, is typically I'll go for to basically go and see what Juan does. If
Okay.
if he and I are not typically covering something, like it's a weird thing, like we're both dropping a video, similar products, but I
Mm-hmm.
like to see what his point of view was, because we don't
Yeah.
talk the development part. We may share notes, but we don't share the conversation.
Yeah.
If one's not covering it, it's kind of a weird thing, but I like watching Mr. Fisher. I love, if he has a video that's coming about it, I love just listening to the guy. I've told this to him, he can read the back of a freaking box of cereal for me, and I will listen to it.
He's a
So there,
jewel, isn't he?
he is an absolute, yeah, he's an amazing gentleman, and I'm a very big fan of his. He's always great, down to earth, and of course, there's also David Kogan, which is also one of my best friends. So he's
Yeah.
really good as well. So I like that style, if you think about it in that sense. And but Juan's usually like the number one. He and we're always talking, we're always hanging out. So
Yeah.
it's
He's your boo.
I
That's cool.
exactly, yeah. I mean, no,
Yeah.
it's like the first thing I think about, like if I want to pick somebody's brain, it's like, hey Juan, what are you doing about this? Yeah.
Right. Right.
And then we find out
All
that we
right.
both have the same devices. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So, final question: if you weren't working in this field, what would you be doing for a living aside
Traveling.
from your bomb ass day job, which
Aside
we're
from
not
my
going
day
to talk
job,
about? But
I'll say it'll be something in travel, something relating to travel.
okay.
I love travel. I've loved it ever since I was a kid. I blame my mom for that. We used to travel from Lebanon to Paris to London, and at an
Ooh.
early stage, I loved being in an airplane. Like I
Oh,
would,
okay.
when I was a kid, like when I know we were traveling, I would wake up like 4 hours before everybody else, so excited to be on a plane. So for me,
Nice.
yeah, travel. I love travel. And I love the fact that I get to do that part of the YouTube side. That was actually a very nice perk, because at the
I
beginning I
like
didn't travel at all.
Yeah, I like traveling too, and I think the main thing I like about traveling is when you travel, everything goes out the window. Like everything, all the things that you know are gone.
Hmm.
Like you just have to completely adapt to your new environment. And I think I kind of like that. Like, cause things at home, they can get very repetitive, very boring, but like I
Hmm.
know they're safe. That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
But like when you travel to like a new city or something like that, like everything that you think your routines, they're all just gone and you just have to adapt, and like that terrifies some people, but like
To a
i'm
certain point.
i'm
Yeah,
here for it. I'm
yeah, yeah.
here for it. Like, yeah, let's do this.
How we're making
But
this work now, and to me, it's also about exploring new areas and new places.
yeah.
Lucky enough, our job kind of gets us to visit places multiple times, but also like, I've been to Barcelona before many, many times, but I've never been to Malaga, which I've had the opportunity to visit as part of
Nice.
like the last trip that we did. Been to London so many times, but I've never been to the O2 Stadium, which was also kind of nice. So like
Huh.
you discover things differently, and London was nice because it's also been like since pre-pandemic, since the last time I was back in London. So that was nice.
I was gonna say,
Going
you did go to
finding,
London for Apo, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because that was a trip that we haven't even talked about. Like we talked about all
That
these
was
other different ones, but yeah, you were
one
in
of the other
London too.
ones. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was a nice couple of days there. It
Man,
was
I
good.
do
It was
not
sunny.
envy your sleep schedule for the last 30 days.
Dude, I'm barely getting over the jet lag. Like I finally slept the last 2 nights. I was able to sleep through the night where I would not wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning, up and bright. I'm like, yes, I'm ready to go, but this is the wrong time zone. So yeah, I'm recouping. find
Well,
it.
I don't know about you, but I sleep every night. I sleep like a baby, which is to say, I wake up in tears and crap myself. Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
So with that, we could go ahead and wrap things up. And we already kind of talked about this a little bit, but for those latecomers, I just want you to go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you on the internets, and then we can go ahead and wrap this baby to bed.
Easiest way to find me is just look for TK Bay, either be it YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. You'll find me. It's not that hard. And I always like to say is like, make sure to let the beard guide you, because that's the easiest way to find me. But yeah, and if you
Badass
wanna,
logo, by the way. I haven't mentioned that yet, but I
yeah,
love that logo.
I'm not keeping the beard as long as it was before, but yeah, that was a fluke. I grew the beard out of just to see how it would look, and then it became a thing that stuck. 7 years later, it's not there, it's not gone. People are like, "Is that you in those old videos?" I'm like, "Yeah, that was me pre-beard. Sorry."
Yeah.
Disregard the gentleman before then. But yeah.
All right. So TK Bay in all the things. So
Yeah.
that
Easiest way
is
to find.
that's cool. Okay. Well, with that, I am going to go ahead and wrap things up, because that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. Sorry. Please consider subscribing to this podcast if you enjoyed it. And if you really enjoyed it, I would love it if you would write a review for the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click that subscribe button, smash that bell, and be sure to subscribe to TK Bay as well, because he is all of the awesomes. If you want some early access, jump onto Patreon at patreon.com/benefit of the Doud. I'd like to thank co-producer Cliff and co-host Cliff for all of his hard work behind the scenes, but most of all, and as always, I'd like to thank you for listening and for watching and for giving us the benefit of the Doud.